Welcome to the Taking Flight podcast, where we sit down with visionary leaders to discuss their journey, their brands, and the moments when they really took flight. Joining us today is one of my favorite people. It's Alma Salazar, who is a brand marketing executive. She's a commercial leader, a digital marketer, currently the director of prospected patients marketing at Medtronic. And she's also an accomplished first-generation Latina executive who has lots of experience in both consumer packaged goods, CPG, and medical devices. So Alma, welcome to Taking Flight.
Thank you so much, Anna.
So excited to reconnect with you. And you and I got a chance to work together for a few years, and happy to see your face and excited to hear about your current journey and where you're going next. So we're going to start with Medtronic and just give us a little bit of background of where you were and what you're currently up to.
So thank you for the great intro. You already covered a little bit about my background. In summary, I've been at 4 companies, have worked across 7 different brands, 7 different categories. So it's been a great opportunity. And that journey has taken me to Medtronic. Why Medtronic? I wanted to continue in medical devices. I know that for some people it may not be super exciting, but it's continuously growing. There's great innovation, especially as technology continues to evolve. You truly are making a difference for people, and Medtronic is a great organization, mission-led company, and they really are doubling down on consumer, right? They believe that one of the best ways to help make sure that people are getting access to the medical devices and treatment they need is by making sure that they are aware of the different options out there. So at Medtronic, I joined, as you mentioned, the prospective patient marketing team, where my team, a small team, and I work with the different operating units who are betting on DTC. And our objective is to co-lead, establish DTC strategies and help in that execution. But one of the bigger objectives is to help raise the acumen of DTC at Medtronic as a whole. So it allowed me to return to consumer, which is one of the areas that I really love in marketing.
I love that, because when we're thinking about medical device marketing, healthcare in general, a lot of times we're primarily, or we start being focused on the practitioner, on whoever's administering, whether it's a surgeon or a doctor or dermatologist, whoever it is. And then we say, okay, but we actually want patients to know about this. We want the consumer market. And that's a whole different type of campaign.
Exactly.
And right, we don't always apply the same things. But before we dive into all of that, why marketing? Why did you decide to get into this profession, and or what excites you the most about marketing in general, whether it's D2C or B2B?
I hadn't been asked this in a while, but when I was a student, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in business. And I had the privilege of going to a great school, and they partnered me up with different mentors. And as a result of that, I started doing a few internships. One of my first internships was at an accounting firm, where I started to learn about marketing, but realized that marketing changed a lot based on the industry you were in. So I was like, I love the role of marketing, but don't necessarily want to do it as a support function. So where is marketing considered like a revenue driver of the business, which led me to the role of brand marketing, CPG, and so on. And what I learned about it, which is still what I love to this date, is that it's a mix and integration of analytics and creativity. And I really love that. While I love a degree of routine, I also get bored by it. So having similar challenges, but no one challenge is exactly the same, means that no one day is exactly the same in my role and my type of role. So that's something that I love. And I'm always learning, especially the way that marketing has evolved in my career. I joke that when I started, I needed a .edu account to have a Facebook account, right? And since then, the world of marketing has continued to evolve at such a fast pace, which forces you to stay on top of what's new, what could work for your brand, but at the same time, it could be overwhelming for many of us, including myself.
It's so true. There are so many tried and proven strategies in marketing and the basics, but the tools and the ways we can now leverage it and the communication channels are so different. And to your point, continuously evolve. And they do vary from segment to segment, industry to industry, vertical to vertical. There's a lot of similarities, of course, but there's also so many nuances with
Yes,
messaging or the vehicles you can use for delivering that message, right?
absolutely.
What do you think, or what have you found as a really effective strategy in building awareness in specifically in device in a more technical market?
I'll maybe return to something you said a bit earlier, where some of the challenges may be the same, the channels may be the same or different, but what isn't different and I think is consistent and the bedrock of amazing and strong marketing foundation is knowing your audience. Who are they? Where are they in their journey? What are their barriers, right? Motivations. What's relevant to them becomes incredibly important. And anytime I've led a campaign, whether big, like meaning there's a lot of dollars behind it, or small amounts of dollars behind it, that's going and returning to that foundation has been a big part of the success and leading those efforts, right? Knowing your audience inside and out and meeting them where they are in their journey, I think is critical.
That's such a great point. Knowing your audience, listening to your audience, understanding their pain points, and then solving them into your, like you said, meeting them where they are, so critical. And I love your accounting background. I also have an accounting background, as you know, and similar to you, realized, wait a second, accounting is not the what's driving this business forward. It's
Yes.
the marketing that's driving this forward, right? In my undergrad, it was like accounting is going to, change the world. And it is so, so important. And we wouldn't be where we are as marketers or business owners or anyone else without that. But that said, I love your focus on how marketing can really drive the business growth of a company. And when you get into that seat and really understand your customers and how to communicate to them, that is when the business starts moving forward. And then you use the accounting to make sure that the financials are all in good shape and there's
Yes.
cash and all
Yes.
the good stuff, right? Your debits and
I
your
never
credits are in good
imagined how
place.
much I would use it in my marketing career too, right? It's because you're constantly managing budget, the profit and loss statement, like what's the margin, where is it hitting above the line, below the line. So it's also a really important skill to have and has served me in this career.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so how do you educate or empower patients through marketing without selling to them, right? A lot of times when people hear marketing and sales, marketing and sales, marketing and sales,
Yeah.
and they go together, but they're also different and they drive each
Yes.
other, just like accounting helps with marketing. How do you find it helpful to educate and empower those patients without the sale, but marketing to them and getting the sale for business?
So I do think it's a very fine balance because at the end of the day, and most of us working in a for-profit role, the intention is it's not awareness for the sake of awareness. It's awareness with a means to an end, that lead conversion, that getting that patient into a possible physician's office, asking for the treatment, and so on. I also, though, believe that information is power, and a patient could only advocate for themselves if they know what's available to them. And I think nowadays, especially again, technology has evolved and changed many of the treatments out there, whether pharmaceuticals or medical devices, that many people don't know what's available. And in many industries, people believe or assume that the tried and true, the standard of care, which might have been driving the industry for the past decades, is the only thing available to them, and that might not be the case. So the way I see it is that it's my job to drive awareness, my job to help inform and educate that there's other possibilities, other options out there for them, give them the best information possible, and so the patient, the consumer can advocate for themselves and ask what's best for me and make that joint decision with their physician and their.
That's great. Thank you for elaborating on that. Yeah, it's education is so relevant and key. And to your point, consumers today, patients today have so much information coming to them, right? Forget the
Yes.
doctor's office. You're just even being online. And so understanding where they are, how can you best educate them, not sell to them something they don't need, but how can your product, whatever it is, can help solve their pain point or issue and then getting to them. So this podcast is called Taking Flight, and we talk a little bit about moments in time where in your journey you took flight. So I'm going to ask you about your leadership, but before that, can you think of an example in a professional journey, whether it's for Medtronic or for another brand that you supported in the past, where the sky just opened up and or you were able to break through a ceiling and that company really took off?
I could think of two immediate examples. The most recent one, and probably the one that has shaped a lot of my present day career, was my time working for Align Technology on the Invisalign consumer team. When I joined Invisalign in 2013, it was already a successful brand, a successful company, but it overwhelmingly had leadership within the adult side of the business. And teenagers within the company was really small. The teen business was really small. It almost was hidden under the adult side of the business. And I had an amazing boss, an amazing team, and we said, let's try to do this and prove that if we invest in teen, we can in fact drive the business at much larger scale than it has been growing to date. And we got the buy-in to do a 6-month pilot. Weeks, maybe month 1, month 2 from launching that pilot, we started to see sales of the team product within the main ortho channel increase plus 40%, plus 42%, plus 50% versus the same time periods the year ago. So we proved what we were looking to prove. And there got so much excitement in the entire organization that it went from a pilot, a 6-month pilot, me being the primary leader on the team, to that business becoming its own independent business. So they separated the books of business. I was able to establish my own dedicated team, and we went from having $1 million per se to the tens and 20s and 30s of millions of dollars, right? So to me, that's an excellent example of a brand taking off, even a business. It became the fastest growing segment of the entire organization. So really proud of the great work my team and I did there.
That's incredible. That is such a cool story. Thank you. And I also have you to thank for my teenager now having Invisalign versus regular braces, which the cost is a little different, but neither here nor
You
there.
for supporting our business.
Yeah, you're welcome. Amazing. Okay, what about you? Can you think of a moment in your journey, whether it's personal or professional, where you think you really took flight and broke through some sort of a ceiling?
I'll answer it two ways if you don't mind, right? Being a people manager is very rewarding, but also very tough. And you don't necessarily realize how much of an impact you make in other people's lives in the day to day. And in one of my last companies, I decided to leave. I wanted a break, and I said I want to do this again somewhere else. And where I realized as a leader, and from a leadership journey perspective, that my impact was quite meaningful was when those my direct reports would continue reaching out to me and asking me for coaching and guidance and telling me that I've been one of the best managers because, well, tough. I also taught them a lot and taught them what good marketing looks like, and they have a foundation that they constantly go back to. So to me, that was super meaningful, right? You're like, oh, I taught somebody how to do something that they now are proud of.
Yeah, impact.
Yeah,
you made a
on a
big impact
personal
on someone. That's
basis, I probably
fantastic.
have to say in my last role and my last journey where you and I, worked together and collaborated, I, like many people, was continuing to climb that corporate ladder, and I was, I think, good at it. I was enjoying it, but I was maybe lacking something personally. I wanted and was craving more work-life balance and the opportunity to spend more time at home and with my family and just be boring, if I'm allowed to say that. And I think just having the courage to acknowledge that became quite transformational for me. You know, I'm probably the happiest I've been on a personal basis in a really long time. I enjoy waking up in my own home, being able to make my own pot of coffee at home versus sometimes waking up in a hotel room and being like, which city am I in today? You know, so that for me, I think the transformation was having the courage to recognize what I wanted and what I needed in that moment. And then also having the courage to say, I'm going to do this for myself because it suits me and not force myself to live up to a standard of maybe hitting the next milestone or the next career ladder. You know?
Hmm. That's fantastic. I think courage, number one, huge. But also, what I heard you say is really hearing yourself and listening to yourself and taking a step back. And I think a lot of people, especially women in leadership, have a hard time doing that because we're already doing a million different things and we're trying to get here, and whatever ladder you're climbing or attempting to climb. So, on that note, do you have any advice or tips or mindset tips or tricks of how others who are looking to grow in their career and looking to take flight in one way, shape, or form for themselves or their companies, um, things that they can implement based on your
Maybe a
experience?
few things. One, be humble enough to always know that you don't know everything and that you can learn from anyone, independent of titles, years of experience, and so on. Two, and probably the one that I've really held consistent to, is that I had to know my own boundaries first. Then I had to respect my own boundaries before others could respect my boundaries. And I've started to apply that consistently, and it's been easy, right? Like others respecting my boundaries is probably the easiest part of all of this. It's me being okay with respecting them, right? And it's as small as somebody sends you
Yep.
a text message after hours. Am I going to respond to it in that moment? You could, but if you're saying, hey, I don't work after hours, then that should be the exception, not the norm. But if you start to do that as the norm, then you're signaling to that person or that team that it's okay for that to happen consistently, right? So for me, that's become something I've held to, and it's when others ask me for advice, that's what I tend to offer. Do you know your boundaries? Are you respecting your own boundaries? Because that needs to happen before others respect them. Yeah.
Such a good point. And that can
Yes.
apply to so many
Yes.
things in the
Exactly.
professional life as well as personal
Yes.
life,
Yes. Yes.
right? And family life and all of those things. Wonderful. Well, is there anything else that you think our viewers or listeners would be interested in hearing or learning? Anything I haven't asked you that you think is an important element, whether it's for uh, marketing or the medical device industry or leadership and just overall
One
professional
thing that
life?
I tend to be asked a lot, I spent, I think, the last now 13 to 15 years in medical devices, right? But I started my career in CPG, and what people tend to ask me a lot is if a medical device organization or brand is looking to launch into DTC, what should they know? What should they be aware of? And I think in my observations and what I've noticed is that usually the executive team, the marketing, the marketer, and the team thinks of all the fun and sexy side of marketing, the campaign, the creative, the media. But if an organization is serious about doing this, I think one must recognize that there are other cross-functional partners that fuel the marketing engine, and making sure that they are aware of what present day marketing is, what are industry best practices, become incredibly important if you want to make your brand marketing engine a success, sustainable, and have high performing teams, right? You cannot do that without having a legal review compliance and privacy team that understands what it is to speak to consumers, IT and IT stack that understands the all the interconnections of having an amazing website, of how do you then nurture those leads. What does your tech stack like? It's more than just what we put on TV or on a social post.
That's such a good point.
Yes.
Thank you for that reminder to everybody. You're right. It's an ecosystem, and some of the things are not that sexy, and they're important and critical. And where some companies may not be able to sustain in the long run is some of that operational things that
Yes.
are just not built out as well as the idea or the creative or the other stuff. So that's a really great reminder, especially when it comes to medical device. So it was such a pleasure reconnecting with you on Taking Flight. And I am so excited for where you are in your journey today and what's to come. And thank you for sharing your wonderful
Thank you, Anna.
insights and energy with our viewers and listeners. So, and for everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Until next time on Taking Flight with me and Crowe PR. Bye.